All right, traders, good afternoon. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Thursday, September 3rd. So one more day before the long weekend and a little bit of different price action today. All right, so something that we really haven't seen in a while was some volatility showing up into the marketplace. So one of the things I think is important is to kind of go over some of these charts at the end of the day, because during the day the market's moving much faster than what we've seen in the last month. Well, we have seen a pretty fast market, but it's mainly to the upside. But I think just kind of reviewing some charts, I was going over some VIX charts and so forth intraday, and as always, the closing print is most important. So a couple things before we go into today's price action. I think it's important, and I'm probably going to mention this a couple times in today's video, but just learning from what you've seen this week, as well as learning, what happened today, in your, if you fared better today than, in a really big down day where the S&P finished down 3.4%, the Qs finished down 5%, IWM actually fared a little bit better, but still down almost 3% for the day. So, reviewing your portfolio, I think, is important, and some of the decisions that you decided to make, whether it be today or going into today. Did you get a little bit more conservative? Did you understand some of the warning signals that we saw this week? Right, we saw those for a couple days. I had a lot of traders tell me either on Twitter or some other place that, this time is different. We saw the VIX going up with the S&P going up. Usually nothing is ever 100% of the time, but usually that's not a good sign. And I think today proves that it was another situation. So when you see that, that's called a divergence, right? When the VIX was going up for the past couple days and the market was too, that is usually, now we could talk about that more, and why it occurred and so forth. But I think it just mainly, you don't have to understand every single thing that happens in the marketplace, right? If you see some of these things, just chalk them up to a little bit of a warning signal and a place for you to lighten up on risk. That's the main thing. You don't have to understand, and I saw so many people justifying it. Oh, well, it's because they're going out and they have to buy more. There's more tail risk and they have to buy more out of the money calls, so that's why it's doing it. Okay, you could rationalize all those things, but I'm telling you, it was a warning signal to see the VIX go up, as well as the S&P going up, right? There was abundance of warning signals the last couple of days. So I'm not trying to say like I was right or anything like that. It's just the goal here is to learn a little bit, right? And to get better at this game, right? No one ever gets to the point where they figured out this game. Everybody's going to make some mistakes and so forth. And you're going to have to live with those mistakes a little bit. I have some things, today was not a positive day for me. Today was a negative day, right? Because one of the things that I've said over the last week is, hey, I'm going to get caught. Eventually, when we do have a reversal day, I'm going to get caught a little bit, right? And today, yeah, I'm down some money, but it's not the end of the world, right? And I think that, I had a couple of positions on that I didn't like. And even today, my worst P&L trade of the day, I think, was because of something that I did today, not even, coming into today. So 2 trades actually were bozo trades today. So, and that accounted for the majority of my downside P&L today. So, and then a couple other trades. Like I had DXCM, I lost some money in that today too. And a few other small things. So it's really, if you position correctly into today, you may have still kind of screwed up a little bit, because this market did go down a lot, right? And you kind of have to play the line in the sand game. Oh, well, it could be this level of support, right? No, it could be this level of support, right? As the market just kind of punched through a bunch of different things. So let's talk a little bit about the price action too, right? There's a lot to talk about today when you have these types of moves. So I'll try to cover it all. But the VIX was up 27% today. That's a big thing. So why don't we start with that, and then I'll go into a little bit of the sectors, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about some levels to watch in the S&P. But that's a big punch out in the VIX, right? We did see this rising VIX warning signal as the market was going up. Again, that's known as a bearish divergence, and you got this pop here, right? So now we'll get into like how I think we should handle this too. VXN is also pretty telling too. It didn't close on the highs, but it's out of that box. So I think at this point you need to kind of wait a little bit, and we need a little bit of. It's a big thing, and I think again this really separates the good traders from I don't want to say the the bad traders, but maybe just the not so good traders, right? I think the good traders kind of sit and observe a little bit and kind of adjust to how the price action changes a little bit versus some traders just do the same thing day in day out no matter what, right? And I think that as the market moves faster, you want to slow down a little bit, right? And especially the position size that you're taking too, right? That's also another lesson probably to be learned for today is basically, watch your position size, and watch how many short-term positions you have on as the VIX gets higher, right? So we've moved. We'll look at the regular VIX first. But as we moved from the lower 20s to all the way above 30, you know that options are going to cost more money, right? And as volatility increases, you don't need the same position size as when the VIX was a 20, right? You should always be adjusting or thinking about the volatility component of your trades, right? So a very easy example is like a high growth tech name or software name like a Fastly or what else has been moving? I don't want to say Salesforce or Workday, but something more small cap in that, like an Okta or a Crowd, right? The volatility is different in those names versus even like a Microsoft or something like a Starbucks, right? And I think I went over this example earlier in the week, but you want to make sure that you're not putting the same dollar amount into those things. And also, if the overall volatility on the tape is higher than normal, right, you should be adjusting your position size, right? So what I'm trying to say is try not to do the same thing every day. Make some adjustments in what you're doing. All right, so that's the VIX, and this is, it didn't close on the highs, but, we could see another something like this, right, where we do have a little bit of volatility present. So why do I think that? Why do I think that volatility could be present for a couple days? Well, if you kind of look at what's going on, we're going into a 3-day weekend. Generally, traders don't like to put on a bunch of risk before a 3-day weekend, right? So there could be a little bit more of that unwind. Tomorrow, things did kind of stabilize a little bit at the end of the day. I wanted to go over some technicals with you. Here's what I mean by, and it's not really stabilization, but we just basically stopped going down. And we did hold this support. So, from where we came from this morning, which was way up here, right? We were way above the value area, and it didn't take long for us to come down, and we didn't hold this top of value, which I thought could be the first area where we might see a little bit of a bounce. Nope, this was a bigger sell-off today. So, so far 3415, and you could write this level down. It's just for this week, right? So it's a very short-term level. It's not something that you can, pin to for next week. But 3415 is the bottom of this week's value area. That did hold. If we come through that, we've got another level down here, 3379. So it's one of those situations where, you could trade against a level, and if the level gets breached, then you got to adjust. Same thing in the Qs, right? The Qs, I try to trade in the Qs. So here's where I made my mistake today. I thought the Qs might hold this top of value, and it didn't. And it blew through this level pretty decently. So that's one of those things where, hey, you think something's going to hold. And I think this was basically where the Qs were down about 2% for the day. And of course, they finished down, 5% for the day. So, but we do have a level, right? So 284.92 is an important level, and we'll see if this holds for tomorrow. right? So again, these are short-term support and resistance levels. We did break through a number of these things, right? I think there was a VPOC that was taken out. There was also one in, we'll talk about Microsoft in a minute. That was one name that I tried playing today, on that side. And on the flip side, if you look at what did well today, which I didn't go through sectors here, but this is straight up value, right? This is a an adjustment or a bit of a rotation into value. We talked about this yesterday, right? So I brought up this chart yesterday. This is large cap value versus growth. Remember, I talked about this was yesterday's move, and then it kind of simmered down a bit. Well, today this is what happened. Value outperformed growth big time today, right? So again, this kind of tends to happen around September, right? I talked about last month that we had a little bit in August. We had a little bit in the beginning of August. If we zoom out, right? I have talked about this September, value situation. I think 4 out of the last 5 years, value has done one of these outperformance. So notice, like I said, we did a little bit in August, not much. Just this little blip was August. So be mindful of this. If we get another big rotation, not just what we saw the last 2 days, into value, you're going to see some of these names come down pretty quickly. And the reason being is because, why do these moves happen so fast? Well, number one, they're overcrowded, right? Everybody's been in tech, right? We've heard things like, this market's only going to go up and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of overcrowded in tech. And what happens these days, which is different than what it used to be 15 years ago, is there's a lot of high frequency shops that are looking for when somebody is unwinding something, right? So they smell out, when somebody is looking to, sell out of a tech position, broad tech or momentum, and they front run it, right? So if they're doing the selling before someone, the actual person, right? People like to blame the algos, which is it's not complete BS, but they're not the cause. Can they magnify the move? Yes, but really, it's the fund doing the rotating, right? If they're selling tech, right? That's not an algo's fault, right? They're just merely executing. However, the high frequency guys will actually try to front run that sell order and get in front of it and sell before whoever is actually doing the selling. I hope that helps a little bit. I know that you can't respond back and say yes because this is a video that's being recorded, but people like to blame the algos. It's really somebody who is originally doing the selling, right? And meaning probably a couple big funds. And I think that's perfectly normal. Now, and by the way, you could see some of these areas which are they're high momentum, right? Solar down 6.4%, tech down 4%, semis down 3.9%. That story overnight about China building up their semi business obviously didn't help today. Biotech, software, these groups got absolutely smoked today, right? And I'm not even looking at the percentage day of change. I'm looking at the move, the intraday move. So big moves here, and and so I have kind of some things to watch. So we did this earlier today for members, and I'm happy to kind of share it publicly because I like to help when I can. But so here's some tips, right? I think for watching this play out. And again, we haven't had. If we go back to the S&P and the daily chart. Oh, here's the other VPOC taken out in the Qs. Sorry, it just took a little while for my screen to refresh. But you could see that was the low of the day. So these VPOCs really help. Remember what these things are. Whoops, it just disappeared from my screen. Virgin point of control is a area of where a lot of buyers and sellers previously met up. So a big volume node, NODE, where buyers and sellers have met up before, but they haven't previously returned to. I don't know why that just disappeared. That is from, oh, it's not, well, this candle must, so again, it's basically when price skips over the point of control in a period, right? And that becomes a virgin point of control. A virgin point of control where price never passed through. It actually did pass through this one. That's why that VPOC went away. This one, you could see back up here, which we just basically broke right through. You could see that price did not go through this period's point of control, right? Point of control where a lot of the volume had occurred in that period. Right? Some people use VPOC as volume point of control. This is virgin point of control. Okay, so I got sidetracked there for a minute. But, yeah, so, here's what I wanted to mention is that, and by the way, we are coming basically, we got so far ahead of value for the month of September. We're basically just coming in a little bit, to the top of value, to support, to the 20-day moving average. So again, this is not the end of the world on day one, right, of, the market coming in. So put this in perspective as well, right? We haven't had any market volatility. We knew, right? I think everybody kind of knew that we were due at some point for some volatility. It's just difficult to know when that's going to occur. All right, so we saw this too, very similar move when, we talked about how the RSI was an 81. Take a look at what happened back in the beginning of June. The RSI got up to about a 75, right? So warning signal, price extended, RSI and the indices, right? One of the things that I heard the other day was, oh, well, it's good that the RSI goes up, that things are overbought. Is it in the indices? I don't think it is. It's well, it's a signal to take some money off the table. That's all. When the indices, right, in individual names, it's a little bit different. So bear that in mind. It's a place, in my opinion, when we see like an over 80 RSI. Is a place to take some money off the table. In the indices, remember, the indices are not supposed to, generally do not get that overcooked as we were, right? So keep in mind what happened here in June. You got a couple rolling days and then one big washout day and then a little consolidation for part of the month of June, and then we ended up trending again. So we don't really have any trend that's broken here, right? So if you're like, oh geez, we've completely this is foreign to me, and if you've been just trading over the last couple months, we have not broken any major support, even though as big as this move was. This was a huge move for the Qs. This was bigger than what we saw back on 611, which was here. All right, and again, very extended, very extended. So notice here again, if I'm putting my cursor down on this bottom study on the RSI was a 74 here. Yesterday it got to a damn 81. Right? So again, I point these things out even if you didn't catch them, and missed our videos this week about some warning signs. Right? It's good to kind of go over this a little bit post-mortem and say, hey, here was your warning signals. Did you make some adjustments? By the way, one of the things that I talked about yesterday was getting into, I got a little bit unlucky with that news story overnight about the semis because I was in two semi names too, so that stung a little bit too for me. I was in Taiwan Semiconductor, which I unwind and then put back on the end of the day, and I was in Skyworks, which also got hit hard today. So that's trading. That's going to be a little bit unlucky. I thought they provided some good signals yesterday, but clearly when there's bad news on the tape, it's gonna hurt a little bit. So that kind of compounded my issue today. So things to kind of watch on dip days, correction days. Again, just rehashing this in case it's been so long since we've had a decent pullback day. But relax. I think it's important to try not to fight the tape and try not to make a stand, buying the dip. There should probably be a comma in here, right? Be relaxed in this whole thing. And if, take a deep breath, go for a walk. Don't be a hero, especially on day one of a pullback, right? I think it's also for newer traders. It's like, hey, I got a dip in names, but you have to respect the price action. And when somebody is, getting out of some risk on the tape, realize that the market really got stretched to the upside. And there's many weak hands in this market. This market needs to clear out the weak hands, right? All these people thinking that the market just goes up forever, right? They're going to, as my technical term is, they're going to get smoked, right? So get out of the way. People on margin, they're going to get margin calls. So that's why sometimes it can last 2 to 3 days. When you've gone up a little bit too far, too fast, and when there's a lot of weak hands in the market, sometimes we could get a 2 to 3 day pullback. So again, I don't know if that's going to be the case. We still have on the positive side that the Fed is still backing this market, so it could be a nice buy the dip, but maybe just not yet. And I already said this. We have a 3-day weekend coming, so tough place to add a lot of risk. Be comfortable not knowing what's going to happen. One of the things that I get from newer traders all the time is they want to know what's going to happen every single second. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? What do you think is going to happen in a couple hours? Do you think that this is a good buying opportunity? But you have to observe a little bit, and be comfortable with not knowing a little bit and reacting to price action a little bit, right? It's one of those things that you will develop as you go along as a trader, not trying to predict every move, but basically watching some levels, knowing where you've got a basic trade, versus a support level, and then reacting both ways, right? So if it doesn't, and if it breaches a support level, you got to take the trade off. If it bounces and does well, then you take target. You manage that trade as you would see fit in that situation. So again, look more than 5 minutes or 1 hour ahead. Forget about trying to predict, because again, no one can predict short-term moves, and I think that's kind of the mistakes that the newer traders tend to make. They want somebody to tell them what's going to happen, right? And as I was joking around in the room earlier, you will find, somebody on Twitter to make up some stupid answer for you. Like, oh, yeah, there's a 55% chance that we're going to go higher, and there's a 45% chance that we're going to go lower, right? I mean, these are stupid things, right, that people are going to say so that they could give you some answers, right? Nobody really knows. You just have to kind of trade your risk appropriately, right, and follow your model, follow your system. Know where there's a good places to add risk, and know where things are not, when things are not working the way that you want them to, you have to get out of the way, right? And I'll go over some of my trades in a minute. Compile a watch list, right? So what names do we want to be buying during weakness? Also look at relative strength, right? There's a couple names that were pointed out in the trading room today in the tech space that came back pretty decently. PayPal was one of them. Still finished down 3% for the day, but look at this thing. This thing was all the way down to 195. Talk about a pretty big intraday swing, from where this thing went. So we'll watch this one tomorrow. Also, Taiwan Semiconductor. Only finished down still finished down for the day, but only down 1.2%, and managed to stay above that value area, which is 80, 89. Now, I mentioned 82 level in yesterday's video. That would be a little bit more comforting, but that's a really nice candle, right, in Taiwan Semiconductor. All right, one other name too that I'm watching is Microsoft. This one did not show relative strength. It finished down 6% for the day, but notice where this thing is, right? It's back into the breakout level. So I did try a trade in here, and basically, it's whenever I'm doing this buy the dip on day one of a pullback, it's going to be scaling in, right? It's not. I got a question about that yesterday in the room about like, hey, do you ever put on a full position, right off the start? No. because you don't want to box yourself into a corner. And especially like this, when something is moving this fast, I'm not going to, even though I think there's some good support here, I don't know if it's going to hold yet, right? But I think it's worth trying a trade. And then you got to know your boundaries, right? The other thing that this thing did was on the 5 minute, it took out a VPOC right here. Right, so speaking of virgin point of controls, here's one. Right, so notice again, price seems to seek these things out, and look at the reversal there. So you could set your stop basically to that virgin point of control. And I'm in some October calls for that one. All right, did I go through this? Video is already 25 minutes long. I apologize for how long it is, but there's a lot to go over today. So compile watch list. Yeah, so learning, right? Write some things down. Understand what happened the last couple days, right? We talked about the warning signals. And make sure, so confirmation. But there's a whole bunch of lessons. Like, take a look at if you had some losses today, where'd you lose the most money? Was it in option trades or in stock positions? So there's things to review, right? And there's things to try to avoid, right? The whole thing is, like, if you've been just trading inside a couple years, right, it's going to be a little bit in trial and error for you, right? And unfortunately, where you're really going to learn is on down days, right? Not so much on the up days, on the down days, right? You're going to learn about your position size. Right, if you've got too many short-term plays on, right, that's going to hurt you more. All right, so confirmation. So so what do I look for? Again, I'm kind of giving you, a lot of my playbook here, but I look for the VIX and VXN to basically chill out. All right, what did the VVIX do today? This thing was up. Yeah, I mean also a pretty big green. So we really can't say anything about this yet, other than we know that volatility has shown up in this market. So call buying, I like to see, when they're really going after a name, and size, not these little, tiny little bites of, weekly calls, but I like to see somebody really buying the dip. That's a bit of confirmation, right? I want to see that institutional money say, hey, this is a good place. I want to see us reclaim some levels, right? And I want to see us hold some levels, as I just went over in the major indices. Market breadth, I want to see us kind of turn, and get stronger, not weaker throughout the session. You could see on the bottom left. Here's also what market breadth looked for the day. If you want to look at advancers versus decliners and new 52-week lows. Interesting. Helene Meisler was pointing out in her column this morning that the NASDAQ lows have been ticking up for like the last week, right? So that's kind of notable, right? When you start to see when price action is still going up, but you're seeing an increase in new lows, right? That's also known as a divergence, and she was talking about that in her column in Real Money today. What else? Was there anything else in here? All right. So that's that, and yeah, relative strength. We talked about that, and then also, get to the point where the dips are good places for you, right? Instead of playing defense. Right, when you've got too many positions on, you want to really start to say, hey, I've been waiting for some dips and a pullback. I could put some money to work in these, right? Everybody always says, oh, if only I get a market dip, I would love to buy the market on a dip. And then whenever the market dip happens, it's actually a lot harder than you think it is, right? There's so get to the point where you begin to really love the market dips. That's kind of where, even though I'm down money today and bought a little bit, some things a little bit too early. Oh, I said I would mention my trades. That was the other thing, as this video is about 30 minutes long. But yeah, I didn't know how today was going to develop. We talked about in yesterday's video that I could see the turn happening in value. However, when it's too much pressure, right? So I started a position in Goldman, which didn't work, right? I thought this Goldman was going to break higher, and I was able to hit like a target in this thing before it collapsed. Right, so I hit 2 targets. This was a nice trade, and then I said, again, when I see something that's not looking right, I bail. So I got out of this. What else did I put on this morning into the wrong spot? Disney. Right, I did hit target 1 in Disney and then took that thing off. Where did Disney finish? Right, because we were seeing a lot of call buying this morning in Disney. Right, not that bad. Only that's not a bad day considering how bad the market was. Again, I don't like this candle. This isn't what I was looking for. I was looking for this name to start to get out of this. So you'll see me do this. You're probably like, hey, why is he taking this position off? He just put it on. Well, because if it's erasing the signal that I originally got into for it, I don't want to own it. So that's that. I backed out of those trades. Boeing, here's my disaster of the day. And I think Boeing could be setting up a sell signal. Right? I talked about, I put this chart on Twitter earlier in the week talking about that this could be setting up for a big move. It could be a big move to the downside. So I got trapped in some calls in this thing. I got greedy, but another false signal. How many of these have we seen? We actually talked about this in the pre-market session, and I said this Boeing is garbage because it doesn't have any follow through. It cannot hold. It has not been able to hold any particular couple green bars. And I went ahead and I saw some calls on the tape, and I said, you know what? Maybe it's the time for Boeing to break. And it hung in there for 1 bar. That was it, and then good night. So this might actually set up for a short. All right, what else? What else did I do today? I got out of DHI, which I managed to take a target on this morning. Oh no, DRI is what I hit a target on. I didn't like what I was seeing in the home in that space. I got out of TSM, and then I started to kind of pick some names. I tried a Tesla short, which it's tough at the end of the day to get these trades to work. But I just tried. Oh wow, did this take out the 5-minute VPOC? Oh, I guess it did. Yeah, this was basically what I was going for. So I hit a couple targets and then unwind the position once I started to see some buyers at the end of the day. But I did try a short trade, and I made a little bit of money on it. And then I bailed on the last portion of it. All right, guys. So that is it. A long video for today, but a lot to go over. I hope these videos help, and have a great night, everybody. And again, think about things. The last thing I'll say, bottom line, is just make sure that you're thinking that there's no rush, right? Sometimes when we see these dips, right, and you see that you're down a little bit of money, because I think most people, if you played this market short, congratulations to you. You probably made a lot of money on it. But if you play the market mostly long, when you tend to see that your P&L was red, it affects your judgment for the day. And just realize, if you're trading full time or doing a lot of it part time, there's no expiration, right, on what you're doing. Like, you don't have to make up a loss the same day. You don't have to get in panic mode because, oh my God, why is my P&L down, right? So take a deep breath, go for a walk, relax, and stick to your process. And everybody has these types of days, and you just work through it. You just don't compound the problem. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.